Good morning and welcome. God bless you. You can be seated. I want to welcome you here this morning, those of you watching online as well, to this, our first service, which is the weekly Bible prophecy update that we do. We have two services on Sunday morning. The second service is actually the sermon. It's a verse-by-verse study through the Word of God. We're currently in the book of James. We're, Lord willing, today going to finish chapter 1. And in so doing, we're going to answer this often asked question of, do I consider myself religious? And we're going to do that by explaining from the text what true religion actually means. Also, for those of you online watching by way of YouTube or Facebook, we would encourage you to go directly to the website. There you will find the uninterrupted and uncensored entirety of today's update. Before we jump in, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your patience with us. We are doing our best with the increased attendance. We would certainly covet your prayers for the leadership, the staff, and the servants who faithfully and tirelessly serve behind the scenes. Please know that the changes we've made up to this point, of which there have been several, and the ones we're still making, are bathed in much prayer and even fasting. One more thing, next week, of course, can't believe it already, here is Resurrection Sunday. And while our service times will be at the same time, we're just really going to need your patience with us next week. First service will still be the prophecy update, but second service will be a Resurrection Sunday celebration and sermon. So hoping you're able to join with us. And again, thank you for your patience with us as well. Well, for today's update, I want to talk with you about what seems to be the proverbial calm before the storm, as it's referred to. By that I mean there's this almost eerie lull of sorts which oftentimes precedes a catastrophic storm, and oftentimes it hits so suddenly. The year was 1997. My wife and I were staying with my aunt who lives in Giza, Egypt, where the pyramids are. I'll never forget that one particular day. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I happened to be out on her deck just videotaping, and please, no, not videotaping, but huge shoulder camera videotaping. This is 1997 technology, but I was just videotaping, it was such a beautiful, sunny, calm day. And all of a sudden my aunt comes out and tells me, hey, we don't have much time. There's a dust storm coming. So I'm like, okay, well, just let me get in now. I'm like, whoa, look, it's beautiful out. She said, not for long. And she was right. It was a matter of minutes. I'm not exaggerating. We go inside and we shut everything, and they've been through this before, but this particular dust storm was unique. In fact, it made national news. And we were actually scheduled to fly out of Egypt and back to Amman, Jordan that day, and ended up having to delay that flight because of this storm that hit so suddenly. But it was just a matter of minutes, and all of a sudden, that beautiful sunny day and blue sky turned completely dark, in some ways even darker than the night. And it just engulfed and consumed and enveloped everything, devouring everything. And it lasted for a while, but I'll never forget how suddenly that storm, that dust storm hit, and the eerie calm before it did. Well, you probably already know where I'm going with this, but even Jesus spoke to this concerning the prophetic application to this. It's a very interesting account recorded in Luke's Gospel, the 12th chapter. I'll begin reading in verse 54. Just kind of picture the scene in your mind. Jesus is speaking to this crowd. And we're told, he said to the crowd, when you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say, it's going to rain, and it does. And when the south wind blows, you say, it's going to be hot, and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky. How is it that you don't know how to interpret this present time? Wow. In other words, you can see the storm coming, and it does. But when it comes to the signs, prophetically, you're unable to see what's coming. And to call them hypocrites, I know it's uncomfortable for some people to see Jesus this way. And sadly, I think he's been portrayed as this, sort of certainly meek, but not weak. I mean, the strength with which he would address people, particularly on that day that he went into the temple. I would have loved to have been there. I hope that's not bad, but I would have loved to have seen that. He fashions a whip and drives them out of the temple and turns the tables over. Wow. So this is very strong, and rightfully so, because what was happening was they did not discern or see what was coming. Oh, they could interpret the weather and know that a storm was coming, but when the prophetic storm and the signs are all there, no. Doubtless the Apostle Peter, in his first epistle, had this in mind. In chapter 5, verse 8, he says, "Be alert and of sober mind." And here's why. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. I wonder sometimes when things are kind of going good and we get sort of a reprieve and a respite, as we seem to have been given, I guess, for however long it's going to last. We have this tendency to kind of be lulled into a spiritual slumber, just kind of basking in the calmness, unknowing of what's about to hit. What I'm hoping to do in our time together today is draw your attention to this prophetic calm before the prophetic storm in just 4 specific areas: environmentally, economically, geopolitically, and technologically, all of which point to Bible prophecy, particularly prophecy found in the book of Revelation. And we'll start with the calm before the environmental storm, which we addressed actually kind of in depth last week in the update concerning geoengineering. We had a number of people contact us about Dane Wigington and the full-length documentary titled The Dimming at geoengineeringwatch.org. We've provided a link to that video, that documentary, that must-see documentary for those who were unable to find it and view it. Also, we provided another link to Dane's YouTube channel, which I subscribe to. There you will find his weekly Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News broadcasts, which he usually posts on Saturdays, and I would not recommend it for the faint at heart. He tells it like it is, and it is factual and true. And it's important to understand that this is not a conspiracy theory, which is what they would have us to believe. What they are doing to the earth is very real, and it's just a matter of time before the storm of earth's destruction hits, as we're told it will in Revelation chapter 11, verses 16 through 18. In verse 18, the prophecy is that when judgment comes, God will destroy those who destroy the earth. That's a very specific prophecy. This brings me to the calm before the prophetic storm economically, and the recent World Government Summit 2022 on March 28th. Pictured here is a screenshot of Dr. Pippa Malmgren, who stated, and I quote, this is a quote, "What underpins a world order, which was, by the way, the theme of this summit, was, are we ready for a new world order?" That was the theme. So she's asked on stage in this forum about this, and she says, again, quote, "What underpins a world order is always the financial system. I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in 71. By the way, parenthetically, let me say, she was an advisor to George W. Bush, economic advisor." So she continues, quoting, "I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. I have been for the last 2 years, and just hear me out, okay? For the last 2 years, I have been up here, as is my privilege to every week. And I have been screaming and yelling and spitting and telling you that what we're witnessing is the controlled demolition of the existing global economy to usher in the new one. And it's the calm before that storm. Using her words, we're on the brink. She goes on to say, listen very carefully, and the new one, this new financial system that we're going to, abandoning the old one, is what we call blockchain. Oh. My son, firstborn son, explained blockchain technology to me a couple years ago in the simplest of terms, and I think I finally got it. And very basically, very simply, what blockchain technology is a verification technology. So you have this massive computing power that verifies and authenticates a transaction. And once that transaction has been verified and authenticated, it is then added as a block to the chain. I know that's deeply profound. Blockchain. It's a verification system. This technology. Now, you, and she's going to mention this here in a moment, you will automatically connect blockchain technology to cryptocurrency, which is what it is. It uses blockchain technology. The most well-known of the cryptocurrencies is, of course, Bitcoin. Now, the beauty of Bitcoin has been heretofore that it is decentralized. Decentralized. What she's talking about is centralized. It is controlled. See, right now, you can invest in cryptocurrency, and it is not centralized by one controlling entity. There's no banks. You are in complete control. But what they're going to do is they're going to create this blockchain technology, and it will be a central bank, CBDC, central bank digital currency. It is no longer decentralized, now it is centralized and controlled. So she says this new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having an almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. I guess to her credit, she acknowledges the concerns here. She says, quote, "In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private, but what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The U.S. is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction." Well, this comes on the heels of what Biden announced a 3 weeks ago about a centralized government digital currency. It's all, yeah, might as well. This is as good of a time as any. Please, I hope you know that behind the scenes, this is the image that I have in my mind, and please don't think that I've lost my mind when I share it with you, okay? They're all backstage toasting a glass of champagne together. Zelensky, Putin, Biden, Trump, et al., Obama's there, they're all there. Wow, that was really good. Good job, good show. I told you not to think I've lost my mind when I share it. That's exactly what's happening. They're all in on all this. It's been planned for many, many decades. She goes on, the Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations so that every human being has a chance to have a better life, because that's the only measure of whether a world order really serves. So, you know what this means, right? Well, you have it in your Bible in Revelation chapter 13. This blockchain technology is exactly the technology that we're told in the Bible will be present during the 7-year tribulation. This blockchain technology is so precise that every transaction, every human being can be tracked, verified, and authenticated using this technology. It is so powerful. And that technology exists today. Today. If you go, again, I'll say this, if you go 10 years out, the technology, as fast as technology is advancing, if you think about how technology is advanced heretofore to the present day, and you fast forward that 10 years from today, you exceed the technology that we have recorded in the Bible. That should give us all pause in terms of how close we are. So it's just a matter of time now. This is that calm before the economic storm that is coming upon the whole world. Every human being will be tracked using this technology. And that's exactly what Revelation 13 says. You will not be able to buy or sell. Everything's digital, cashless. They've had it in place for a long time. And they've already kind of programmed us and conditioned us and readied us for this. And she uses the words on the brink. I like the word cusp better than brink. Just sounds better, cooler, cusp. We're on the cusp. That storm's going to hit. It's just a matter of time. This brings us to the calm before the storm geopolitically and the prophetic implications of the major developments internationally. Of course, we have the ongoing enigma, as I'll refer to it, of what's happening in Ukraine, which is very strange. The only thing to me, if I could be so candid, that makes any sense at all is that old adage, follow the money. Then you start kind of, okay, I think I see what's really going on here. So you know the Ukrainian flag, right? It's gold and blue. You know why? The gold is the wheat, the blue is the sky. Ukraine is known as the breadbasket of Europe, the grain, the food supply, not to mention the energy. This is a key and strategic location. And by the way, I want to come back to this, maybe just hang on to this for a moment. But have you noticed that if you dare say anything that even smacks of being pro-Putin, you're censored? You're ostracized, you're criticized, you're demonized, you're all the eyes. Criticized, penalized. Oh, you don't think that's happening? The campaign now is all about Ukraine now. Don't dare go against the narrative, because that's the narrative. Follow the money. It's all about the money. And even more specific than Ukraine being the breadbasket of Europe, it also has to do with the petrodollar. You know what I'm referring to when I say petrodollar? It's the US dollar that is used as the exchange payment for oil and natural gas. Well, what's interesting is Putin is now refusing, as payment for any natural gas and oil, the US dollar in favor of the Russian ruble. According to Al Jazeera, Putin announced a gas currency switch for unfriendly countries. Here's a quote. The Russian ruble briefly leapt to a 3-week high past 95 against the US dollar on Wednesday in Moscow before settling close to 100 after President Vladimir Putin said Russia would start selling its gas to unfriendly countries in rubles. The potential ramifications of that move, which Putin ordered his government to sort out in 1 week, could boost the Russian currency, already has, with a host of European countries still dependent on Moscow for much of their energy supplies. I've heard some pretty staggering numbers. It's up there. At the very least, 30%. 30%. You think about that. Hang on to that again. I want to come back to that in a moment. Add to this what the Times of Israel is calling a political earthquake on Wednesday, with the coalition whip Edith Silman's sudden resignation, which is now unsettling Naftali Bennett's coalition, leaving many to speculate that Netanyahu's Likud party could, if you can imagine, regain power in what would be yet another election in Israel. So much so, Netanyahu held a rally immediately after the breaking news. I-24 News reported on this with the headline, Netanyahu tells weak government to go home at rally. Weak government? Rally? Where's that glass of champagne? I'm not recommending champagne. This sounds very interesting to me, like it's all scripted. It's all part of the plan. Weak government? Rally? I'm not going to say anything more on that. I'm going to leave that right there. With the calm before the storm environmentally, economically, and geopolitically, we have the calm before the storm technologically. Now, it's important to understand that these four, just these four, there are others, are interconnected with each other, in concert with each other, which is what I want to talk about for the remainder of our time together today, and we'll go ahead at this time and end the